Yes, sir.
Recording in progress.
Right. So, what we discussed in the last session about system analysis, design, all that. I think it's echoing, Neelam. Can you check once from your side?
Sorry.
It's echoing from your end, I think. You just see. Okay, fine.
Echoing.
Yeah, okay, fine. Right. So, what we discussed in the last session about the system analysis designing, right? So, the design part we have discussed. At the same time, we have discussed about high-level design and low-level design. What are the different elements which will be included in high-level design, all that.
Right.
Today, as part of application development, we are going to discuss about the programming. Normally, there are different languages normally we use. First of all, let us understand about what are the languages normally we use in the field of application development. Generally, languages will be classified into different parts. The first language is called markup language. The first one is called markup language. The second one is called modeling language. Third one is called programming language. Last but not least, we call it as query language. Okay, these are the four languages we have as far as the application development is concerned. Because if you see application have three different layers, you know that, right? So the first one is about presentation layer. Second one about the business logic layer. The third one is called data layer. Three layers we have. In regard to the languages, it will be classified in different manner. One is about the markup language. Markup language is nothing but this is something useful when we are preparing front pages. Okay, for example, HTML, you know it. Okay, HTML pages, right? So, for example, when we are creating any login page or when we are creating any kind of websites, if you see it on the URL, in last you can see .html, right? So you can see over there .html or .php, okay, like that, right? So normally you can see that. This is what generally markup languages are being used. Means if there is any application you are going to create, there are some presentation layers or presentation layers or front screens you have to create. If you want to create any kind of front screens, means whatever the screen which normally appears, right? If you want to see it all that, generally these markup languages are something which normally we use. That's what generally we call it as HTML, hypertext markup language, point number one. Second is called modeling language. Means if we want to visualize the process of any functionality, being a business analyst, normally you do all these in regular intervals, like preparing some UML diagrams like use case, sequence, collaboration, component, deployment, right? So class object, right? So these are the different diagrams do we have, right? So if you want to visualize the process of the functionality, generally this modeling language is being used, which is called UML in short. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. So unified modeling language is the one which is majorly useful to you to model the requirements. Means if you want to prepare, let's say that, for example, you are developing some ATM system. So how the ATM system externally look like, right? So what are the primary elements we have? And how are these primary elements connected one among all? If we want to know that, generally modeling language is something majorly useful. So UML and all everything are comes under that category, right? So this is the second one which you'll be knowing. So to prepare that UML diagrams, we have different tools, of course. That's a different thing. We have Star UML, right? So we have Lucid Charts, we have Microsoft Visio. Right? So we have different tools. That's a different context. The third one about the programming language means if we want to develop any business logic, we write programming language. The best example is called, for example, Java, all that. Java, etc. Right? So these are the programming languages. Why programming language? Let's say on the screen you have given 1 plus 2. When you press the enter button, you got the result called 3. How you got that? Have you done any calculations manually? Is that something done by you?
No.
Then how come we got it? See, there is 1 plus 2. So when you are pressing an enter button, you got a result called 3. How?
There's a logic developed by developer for that.
Why? Why is this logic to be developed? Where this logic to be developed? In what format? Okay, these are the questions which required answers. So let's say, for example, if we are communicating with one human, so let's say that I am communicating with you and you are communicating with me. There is a common language which normally we are using called English, because this is a language known to you as well as to me. When we are communicating between two different people or among people, there must be a language so that we can express what we want to say. So for that, there is a language we have taken, a medium called English here. Am I right?
Right.
In the same manner, if you want to interact with a system, which is a physical object, but it's not a live object. Okay. She means if you want to give some instruction to the system, so that system has to follow the instructions. If that was the scenario, what is that we have to do? There must be some language where system should understand. That sort of language we have to choose. That is what generally we call it as programming language. Means you have to give instructions to the system. So system should understand this language from the point of view where it should understand the language. What are we going to provide? So for that, generally there is a programming language which normally we will be using, which is called Java, right? Java. That is point number one. So using a programming language, what you are giving, as far as the example which I have told you, 1 plus 2 equal to 3. So developer has written a business logic behind. What business logic he has written? He has written a business logic for adding two numbers. Adding two numbers. Adding two numbers. This is a business logic which normally they have used. Adding two numbers. The two numbers can be anything. It can be 1 plus 2. It can be 500 plus 300. It can be 2 plus 2 plus 1. It can be of anything. Am I right? Or
Right.
1 plus 2 and all, right? So adding of two numbers is a business logic which was written in a form of programming, right? So Java programming, which was created by the developer. So that system has system has understood the instructions which was given by you. Let's say you have used a word, you have used a symbol called plus. It means it's an addition. If they are using minus, it's a subtraction, multiplication, division. So how the system has instructed, because the kind of programming language we have used is called Java, right? So Java programming, or you can take C++, all that. Next, another programming language widely used across industries is also called Python. You might have heard about it.
Right.
Python. So, but there is a difference from Java to Python, because why am I comparing? Because these are the two prominent languages we are using in the field of IT nowadays. Of course, other programming languages we have even. But the major difference is Java is a widely programming language acclaimed from a very long time, for more than 20 years or so. Normally, for any client server applications, web applications to develop, Java is a programming language we are using since ages. Okay. That is one of the key prominent programming language. If you want to develop any assembly level programming, of course, that is a different thing. That's a different context altogether. Assembly level programming, then we use C, C++, etc. So these are the different programming languages we use. That is point number one. Next, when it comes to the Python, Python is a programming language which is used when we are working on the data analysis projects.
Right.
Because if you want to use any kind of data analysis related projects and all. So Python is a programming language you use. That's the reason if you see closely, when there are any jobs relating to data analyst or data analytics, etc. So there you can see the, as far as the requirement is concerned, they will expect someone to have a knowledge, strong presence over Python. That's what
Right.
they mention. If you see, you will be knowing it well. Okay, why? Because Python is a programming language which will be used for the data analysis purpose. But whereas when it comes to the Java, Java is a programming language which is normally useful for client server applications as well as web applications and all. Java is a programming language we are using for a very long time. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you want to develop an application, coming back to the point, if you want to develop any application, it is always important for you, or it is always important for us to explain or develop an application using some programming language. In that regard, the basics for programming is called OOP, which stands for Object Oriented Programming. Okay. So object oriented programming, where we know about the what are the different data types, encapsulation, polymorphism, right? So different data types, like for example, integer, Boolean value, right? So different characters. So what is meant by character? What is meant by numeric? Right? So what is meant by Boolean value, right? So all these things we will be learning when we are working on object-oriented programming. So if you want to write any logic or if you want to write any program, it's always important for any programming language, to the matter to the fact whether you are going for Java, you are going for Gosu, you are going for Swift programming, or you are using Ruby as a programming language. For anything, object-oriented programming of Java is one of the core basic minimum thing, where you will be learning about the kind of data types that we have, right? So you will be learning about encapsulation, polymorphism, right? So all these things we will be learning in this process. In this regard, so Java is a programming language widely used across industries for a very long time. When it comes to the Python, as I stated, Python is a programming language widely used when we are working on data analysis projects, whatever the data related projects and all. So there generally this Java is something which normally we will be using. Okay, this is about the programming language part. Now the next one about the query language, right? So what is meant by query language? Query languages means if you want to extract anything, okay? For example, if you want to extract any kind of information, then query language is what something which normally we will be using. So query language is the one will be used to extract any queries. From the database. Okay. For that, generally, the SQL, the example for that is SQL, you know about it, right? So
Right.
SQL is a structured query language. For example, I'll give you an example to you. Let's say you want to update the data, you want to insert the data, you want to delete the data, you want to retrieve the data. So whatever the data which was posted, so if you want to extract the information from the database, or else let's say there is a banking application where customer have lot of deposits in the banks. Now, backend team, whoever is working, wants to extract reports because they want to know whoever is maintaining average $500 in every quarter. They want to know it, for example. For example, right? So they want to know for their business purpose and all, they want to have a report where average $500 whoever maintain, they want to have a report of it. So for that, what generally they do? For that, normally they want some extraction, they want some report to be generated here. In this regard, so they want to know average $500, average quarter, whoever is maintaining, they want to report. So they want to have a specific query for their business decision. So to know that, what is that we have to do? Because in database, whatever the data we have uploaded, so for that there is some database structure as well as the tables were created where we have posted all the information in that. So once we have posted the information, what is that we have to do? We need to extract as much as information as we want from that. So for that reason, generally this SQL, etc. are being used here. So this is what something which normally we will be using as a languages I'm talking about, right? So one is about markup language, widely used to prepare front pages, etc. All that HTML, all these things are comes under that category. Next, when we talk about UML, as I stated, so it's a modeling language which majorly used to prepare different models and all that. Modeling language is being used. Next, as a programming language, means as I mentioned you, if you want to develop any business logic, there must be some instruction should be given to the system so that a system understands the kind of commands what we have given to them, etc. So for that Java, etc., all these being used. Next one about the SQL, which is called structured query language, which majorly useful for us to use to extract the queries. Means if you want to insert the data, if you want to update the data, right? So or else if you want to delete some data, the files or table or some fields into the existing database. For all that, generally SQL is what something which normally are we using. So as far as the application development itself is concerned, these are the different languages which normally we have to use. Among these, as far as application development is concerned, these are the two things which are we learning in this course. One is about the markup languages you must be knowing because user interface designs, front page designing will be created by user interface designing team. At the same time, even developers will also be created these HTML screens or something like. So having some knowledge over HTML, JavaScript, CSS. So these are something important for any application development when we are working is important. In addition to that, having a knowledge over object-oriented programming and writing a logic for programming is also one of the core and important element. So in this regard, so these are the two things we are learning. One is about the markup languages we have to learn. Second, we must be learning about the programming languages. Anyway, query languages, you know, right? So modeling language is not something related and relevant over here. So the first and third one are we learning, right? So I'm going to start from tomorrow onwards, the basics of object-oriented programming. So first, let me cover the basics of object-oriented programming in Java. So then I'll go back to HTML. I'll cover the HTML part first. Then again, I'll come back to the Java program. And I'll be continuing that in next coming days.
Okay, sir.
Clear, Neil?
Yes, it's clear. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.